Hello. Welcome to our Unlock Your Design live reading. We have Tom with us right now, and we are going to be going into his charts, human design and gene keys. I have Bella with me. Tom was so brave to come on here and show his whole life and his whole blueprint to everybody. Full transparency. It's very ironic that he has transparency in his chart as well. So it's beautiful. Tom, did you want to introduce yourself and say hello and also tell us how you know about the systems, human design and gene keys?
Oh, wow. Well, hello, my name is Tom. My native name is Spiraling Fox. I'm from Detroit, USA. What led me to human design, I was introduced to it by a shaman and best friend probably like 8 years ago. I looked at it a little bit and it didn't really catch me. And I went through a period of having 4 relationships in a row where I was really feeling love, wanted to be with them, but they didn't want to be with me. And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what this pattern is about. And also, all of my previous relationships, I was the fixer. I was needed, but not really wanted, if that makes sense to you. So that began my human design journey, and that ventured into gene keys for about the last 3 or so years.
Awesome. Thank you. And I've seen you in some of the groups as well. And we've actually looked at your profile a while back, and I was like, oh, a 5-1. And he's got a lot of really amazing energy in his charts, very strong energy too. So it's like it takes a lot to get from the shadow to the gifts, but when it's in the exalted expression, it's very liberating. It's very amazing. So I'm going to pull up your chart, and I would love to know, Tom, if there's any intentions for the call today. Is there anything that you would like to kind of focus on or go into?
I'd like, your overall, I guess, input. I've been working the deep dive a couple of times in the beginning sequence in Gene Keys. I've begun on my own with a couple of friends the Venus sequence, but I don't know a lot about that, and I know nothing about the Pearl.
Well, that's exciting for us.
And okay. I've been watching your guys' things on the lines. Very good, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we'll be moving into the 5 line or the 5th line archetype for relationships tomorrow as well. So that'll be interesting for you to tune into, since you do have the 5th line. You are a 5-1. So just for reference for everybody, Tom is an emotional projector. He's a 5-1, and he has a right angle cross of uncertainty. So that's 8, 14, 55, and 59 that are in his activation. This is the correct chart, right, Tom, before we go any farther? Yes, okay. Perfect. Okay, so some of the stuff that we were talking about was, you pointed out the 14 as well. So we're going to make sure that we mention this and we kind of go into this, but to really understand what happens in the evolution, and this is the unconscious earth. And so to really understand what happens in the evolution, we kind of have to see what brought you here, or what brought you, what happened in childhood that might keep hanging up in this evolution, because the earth is what grounds you. The earth is where the challenges lie. The earth is like the lesson, the mission that we're on here, being here. It's what keeps us here on the planet.
Actually, you're fun. You're sounding funny in my.
Oh, I'm sounding funny
in my.
Like what? Like my voice?
Yeah, I think it's your internet connection.
Okay,
maybe.
Let me look. Or maybe it's my.
Tom, how do you? Tom, is she sounding strange to you as well, or is it just to me?
I don't know what she normally sounds like, so it sounds okay to me.
Weird. So much interference. But it's okay. We will continue on. Just let me know if it starts sounding weird for you, Tom and Bella. Okay, so I just wanted to point out some of the archetypes that he has in his chart that we've already gone through. So we have the influencer, the 8.5. We have the inventor, the fire starter, thunder, the game changer, I believe we called this the mountain. And then we have the inventor again, and we have the translator, and we have the manager. So Tom has a ton of archetypes that we've already been through. So lots of energy from the beginning of the year. Not a lot of energy that ends the year. So a lot in your whole gene key sequence comes from now before. So it's kind of interesting to see how all these archetypes are showing up in your chart, and we'll kind of weave them together. Is there anything that you want to kind of go into first, Bella, spontaneously? I know that we usually start with the human design. So where do you want to dive into? Oh, she's gone. So much interference for Bella. Anyways, so I see that you have a large split. So that means that you kind of have a gap between these two little like islands. One up here with your throat and your G, and then down here with your emotions and your root. And actually, what's in transit right now is I believe it's in Neptune. We have the 22nd gate activated, and right now the nodes shifted to be in 12 and 11. So right now, for the rest of the year, you're going to have access to bridge your split. And it's going to give you the ability to be able to voice your emotions and the things that are going on within you. And this just shifted. So it's available for you right now. I also see that you have the nodes are in 10 and 15 for you. I have this, I have these in my purpose and my radiant sphere. Has anything come up for you within these past 18 months? Because we were just in the 10 and the 15. Did anything significant happen recently?
Yeah, COVID, um, racial riots throughout the world. Me personally, I have the cross of uncertainty, so I'm kind of used to it. I've been living that my whole life.
Mm.
But other than that, not so much.
All right. So like with the uncertainty, it seems like you get into a series of shocks maybe. And I think that when you were writing in the intake form, you were talking about I mean, with your nodes being in the 15 and the 10 and having that 15, it's the love of humanity. And you were talking about being an advocate for wasn't it like every single race? And I know that you actually you have are you part Native American, or did you like learn how to become that? What was that situation, and how I want to know about your love of humanity is what I'm getting at.
Um, yeah, I left Christianity a long time ago and followed a native path that just seemed to call me. So I've worked with a lot of different tribes. It's the love of the earth, the love of connectivity of everything, the love of the people.
What did you kind of have to go through to bring you into this love of humanity? What kind of struggles did you face to have you come into this? Because I don't know, were you born loving everyone, or do you feel like it was something that you had to develop or understand?
I think that developed.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm wondering where Bella is, but we will keep going. I want to hear about, because you've already went through the activation sequence, I'm kind of looking at the 55 and the 59, where you have victimization um, and dishonesty that can be transformed into freedom and intimacy. This is what's going to ground you into your body and connect you into your soul. And the purpose for this is so that you can get into your core stability. Once you're in your core stability, you're able to traverse the realm of relationships and go back towards the things that kind of marked and shaped your childhood as well. And that way you're able to show up in relationships where you're whole, healed, and you're not going into relationships needing to fix anything, because that's like what the fifth line wants to do. It's like the fixer, right? And the universalizer. So I think that it would be interesting to talk about your experience with the 55 and the 59 and how that kind of shows up in your life personally, especially as a line one as well.
Ooh, I've had a pretty rough go in life. Started off creating my own small business with $400 and made $1 million by the time I was 27 by cutting people's grass. Then in one summer, just a whole bunch of events happened that I pretty much lost the company, got robbed, just all kinds of victim creating circumstances, and tried a couple of other businesses that failed, have gone through losing everything. I've been homeless 3 times. I've lost all of my possessions 3 times. So a lot of stuff that could, at the time, I looked at as being a victim. It was somebody else's fault besides mine. And same thing in relationships. That's where that self-honesty, or the dishonesty, is more about myself rather than being dishonest. But I've attracted quite a bit of dishonesty to me in life as well.
Mm. How important is honesty, and how important has it been for you in the past in your relationships to be transparent? And what are the things that maybe prevent you from feeling like you can share? Like, what would keep you from sharing all of yourself with someone else?
I think for me, it was, the 59 or 5539 channel. It was not really expressing all of the emotion. So there's a dishonesty in that, and not really showing up because a lot of the emotions are suppressed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, I've always been pretty honest and tried to have a high level of integrity. Although what I wish to do and what I actually do is not always the same. But I do shoot for it.
Thank you for clarifying that. Bella, is there anything that you want to dive into now that you're back within the human design, the human design chart? Or I'm kind of looking for your wonderful direction, since that's one of your geniuses, to help us flow in that way. Is there anything that you want to dive into and bring us towards?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the 24.2 that's there twice, and that is about cycles and kind of vicious cycles that are often fueled also by the mind that can't feel peace. So this is both part of like the emotional challenge, you could say, and it's also part of like when we look at your life from a cloud and we look down on you, this could be your life because it's the pearl. So I'm wondering what those vicious cycles could be, and it feels like it has to do with a little bit like what you were saying, that in your relationship there hasn't been true mirroring. There has not been true reciprocity. And I'm wondering what that not having true reciprocity, or if that's what it is, or denying some aspects of the relating, how that has created patterns or vicious cycles that are still kind of eating your life and not allowing you to be completely whole when it comes to your emotional, your physical, your mental, your spiritual, like all of them together. I see like this would be kind of a main thing to kind of uncover and unlock.
I agree.
Do you see, can you recognize any of the cycles or patterns or addictions that might show up there? Or like the whole mirroring thing like Bella was talking about. The second line is about mirroring and reciprocity. Where do you feel like you're not met equally there?
Well, I feel like I really worked on developing an ability to love, and I have not yet really been able to receive it. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense? Um, the other is, the financial stuff that has been up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm looking and I'm seeing, I mean, if it's easier for you to give love and to love the other, but it's hard to receive, then that's obviously that imbalance coming in. And I wanna kind of uncover what's the pattern where it's like fix, love, 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 but then there's no room for you. And that's kind of where the compromise can come in as well. And I feel like the whole purpose of like human design and gene keys is to love yourself and to move from loving yourself to loving another person to loving your family, to loving the community and all that. But if we don't end up really truly loving and accepting ourselves and every part of ourselves, then it's really hard for other people to love and accept us as well. So I want to kind of uncover that pattern in here.
I mean, I feel like it's all like what I always see is that the first 20 years are just the soul's way of replaying everything that has to happen for it to learn what it's here to learn. So it comes in, it forgets who it is, and then it has to live 20 years, and everything is replayed to you. So exactly those kind of tasks or difficult things that you're here to learn have played out on that line of 20 years. And I feel like the way that you related to your parents, that they related to you, and that they related to each other is part of like what has created whatever is in the not receiving or the not mirroring right now. And maybe there is something to reclaim there. And that's often in the Venus sequence, that's what we do. We reclaim those periods of time from 0 to 7, from 8 to 14, from 15 to 21. And we start to reclaim parts of ourselves. So I would love you to speak a little bit about, just like say, this is my mom and a couple of sentences about her. This is my dad, and this is how they related to each other to start with.
Mhm. Well, I would say my mom was pretty much in a victim mentality. She immigrated from Germany at the end of World War II.
Mm.
So she lived in Germany as a child. Uh, Found a soldier, immigrated back to the United States. She had a couple of kids. Um, that didn't work out, so she kind of put them temporarily in foster care, went out to find a new husband, and found my father. So basically, she was looking to be saved or fixed. Um, he, you know, did what he could and did a good job of providing, but he really had no ability to love. He did it out of um, obligation, I guess,
Mhm.
and became very bitter, towards the end of his life. And as we had a pretty dysfunctional family, so that the more he was needed, the less he was available. He had multiple other relationships.
Mhm. And what was he bitter about? Because he was trying to provide and he was unavailable. What made him bitter?
I Most of it was about money. He earned most of the money, and my mom
Mhm.
had a shopping addiction.
Mhm. Okay. And what about the relationship between your mom and your dad?
Um, in the early years, it seemed to be pretty, normal. Um, as it progressed in their later years, um, towards the end of her life, he pretty much abandoned her, and I ended up being her caretaker until she passed. Um,
And why did she stay? Because she left her first husband and even put her children in foster care to find another one. Like that seems like a strong woman to kind of do that. Like what made her stay for so long if there was if her husband was cheating? Was that because she didn't feel like she could sustain the family herself, or what made her stay?
Pretty much, she didn't believe.
I think we lost him for a second.
This is so interesting today with the interference.
I know. You got kicked off. He's frozen. Hi, everybody watching. I'll message him. So curious. Okay, he's going to come back on. Let's look. I mean, I'm seeing how he's kind of stepping into like what his mom kind of played, the whole victim role, and it's about empowering yourself when she didn't want to empower herself.
Yeah, there are several things that are interesting but I kind of want them to be on when we go through them.
Yeah, for sure. Is anyone on the chat a 5-1 or an emotional projector? Do you have any similarities with Tom, or are you feeling like you resonate a little bit with his story? Hey, Christy, I'll send you a link to book a live reading with us. Yeah, we haven't been doing them in a while. We did them for a while really frequently, and then we took a break because we were focusing on other stuff, and then now space opened back up. Actually, we asked Tom like a while back, like maybe a month or two ago, like, oh, do you want to do this with us? And then divine timing was now. So, and it's kind of still not happening though, because he's not here. But just got here. Do you guys do these often? We used to do these often, Nico, but like I just said, it's been a while. Ooh, Tom's back. I shall bring him on. There you are.
Vertically, like you're on the phone or something, right?
You're on your phone?
Yeah, I switched to phone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's good. You'll have like you can see the replay because I'm gonna start to point in things in the chart,
Yeah.
and so if it's too small to see, you can just rewatch it. Okay, so you were saying that your parents in the beginning was okay, and then your mom was pretty much in the victim position. Your dad would have a lot of other relationships and actually abandon her, and you had to take care of your mom until she passed. So that's and I think you were telling us before, like your mom, what was the destructive patterns that she would go in to when she kind of felt helpless? Like what were some of the things that made you understand that she was really suffering?
She did for a while have a pharmaceutical use problem, a little bit of a drinking problem, shopping problem.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things.
She struggled with addiction. So you were kind of being modeled what this like addictive filling tendency is. I'm curious if you had any And did you take on any of those addictions that she had, or did you kind of, I mean, the pattern's there, so there has to be some kind of addiction, whether it's drinking or shopping or whatnot. How do you smoking?
Moving on. Earlier in life, I drank a lot.
Mhm.
I don't do that so much now. Shopping or sex would probably be next two ones that I could fall to.
Mhm.
So when it comes to your relationship, do you feel like you are the person who might cheat on your partners or the person who's cheated on?
I don't cheat. I've had several open relationships with, specific rules, and they've broken those.
Mm.
But I've always kept my agreements.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like the other person has to, or is that like with money that they haven't kept their word?
Some have, some have not. I had tended to attract multiple alcoholics as well as partners.
Yeah. I mean, what I see in your chart that is interesting is that your core wound is 30, and 30 is fire over fire in the I Ching. It's really the element of fire. And 30 is also your Saturn, which is that inner masculine that is really centered and grounded and kind of, fearless. What's like saying, this serves me, this doesn't serve me. I'm going that direction. Like he's informed by the divine feminine in you, but there's something here where when both your healthy masculine and your unhealthy masculine is the same and they are both in fire, I would say to be burnt in your life is something that kind of is going to happen, because you have that imprint of the masculine, and it's both, and it's going to take some time. You see that your vocation is a line 6, and a line 6 is like really having 3 periods in your life. For the first 30 years, it's just like kind of failing or trial and error. Then you get a little bit of discernment and wisdom. Then you kind of withdraw and be like, why was it so fucked up? And then after 50, you are able to start to choose the things that are not going to burn you down. And in your case, it's even stronger than that, because your true stability comes from stepping into that fearless masculine that can say, this serves and this doesn't serve. The second line in Saturn instability is fearlessness. And I have it too. So I know a little bit how it can work. So if you are the nice person who wants to be there and provide and love the other, and you don't have this fearlessness, then that sweetness can kind of be taken advantage of, or that flexibility of like wanting to be there. So we want you to come into your fire masculine actually and say, I'm not afraid of whatever I need to do. And it can even be uncomfortable. I want my fire. I want my solar plexus to serve me and not to burn me. It's almost like you have a fire in your solar plexus, and instead of using it out in the world, you have kind of inverted it so it's burning you. So you are kind of part of the problem, because I feel like you haven't really stepped into your masculine because you didn't want to become your dad. Like there's something with you. You saw your mom suffer. You had to take care of her. You saw what he did to her. You don't want to become him. So you have to be more loyal to your partners than they are to you. And it's like in your mom, if you look at the Venus at the SQ, she never reached. So that go from control, authority, and valor. She was kind of controlled in a relationship because she didn't have the means with the kids and everything. She wouldn't like to put all her kids in the foster home again. I can even imagine how that is, how that was back then, to like put your kids in foster home, have to look for another husband, kind of fail in finding the other husband, be betrayed your whole life and still have to stay. Like, I don't even know how she made it through, but she was under the control of something that where she wasn't also truly mirrored, because it's the second line in that 21. So I feel like what you are doing, and you did since a childhood, the SQ is the period from 0 to 7 years old. You are still finding your true authority and your valor. Like you're stepping into that. And it's like you kind of have to in one way you become both your father and your mother, and it's like I feel like a part of you doesn't want to become like them because it was so fucked up. But there's like, you kind of have to reclaim the strength and the authority of your mom. You can be the sweet person, you can be the person that's maybe like not as strong and still being your authority. And with your dad, it's like, you know, the fire that he had, or like how he used it and not being able to contain it in one relationship, it's something that you have the possibility to use that fire not to burn down but to live with. That's kind of what I see happening in your field.
And ironically, he was a fireman.
Oh gosh. Yep. I love how you went in that direction, Bella. With, I think that the lesson for you and for all of us is that it's super important for us. I'm going to mute you for a second, Tom, because it's feedback again. I think that it's, oh, I guess it's me, not Tom.
It's okay, Ashley. It actually doesn't sound that bad.
Okay. It's just a little distracting to me. So what I was going to say is that going back in childhood is really important for us to look at our mom and to look at our dad, because they're doing the best that they can. And when they're the ones that are mirroring, I mean, Tom has so many second lines. So the way that he learned as a kid how to grow up and how to mold and how to be in relationship was from what he saw around him with his parents. And so, Tom, your mom was in victimization and under control, like Bella was saying. And so one of the biggest things that you're doing karmically for her, and the fifth line has a lot of that karma stuff as well, because it is guilt, but it is also ancestral line stuff and projection. So it's like, become me. You know, you're supposed to become your mom or your dad, and you're like, I don't want to be him. And then stepping into her, she's constantly burned and constantly controlled. And like Bella was saying, it's for you to take your own authority. And the same thing with like your dad and being a fireman. You're here to really understand what it is to master the art of being like a fire dancer and being able to know what is it I desire, and not burning other people or turning it back and burning on yourself, because it seems like it's too hot to hold, you know, and it gets turned back inwards towards you. And really understanding what is it that you desire, and being very transparent about that with the partners, because it is about you also modeling what the mirroring as well. And then the fifth line is all about getting your message across and not being misunderstood. So it's really important to master communication as a fifth line, because you're here to share your big desires, your big dreams, your big goals. It's the only sixth line in your gene key profile right now. So what it is that you desire is not necessarily what's mainstream. And so you're here to bring something new here. What do you feel is, let me unmute you, because I think you're still muted. Are you, you can unmute yourself. What do you feel is your like big desire?
Well, I've gotten like several of these really world-changing downloads. One was around Henry Ford's original Model T plant in Highland Park, which that project would have transformed a very now impoverished city. And currently it's around racial equality, to do what Pride was initially a reaction to police brutality against gay people. And through celebrating the diversity of all the different types of gay people, they've celebrated it every year. And it's been huge in advancing human rights and a variety of other things. But since George Floyd's death, it's like Pride Black is the idea to take that same concept and do it for people of color. It's going to take everybody, black, white, red, yellow, even blue, all of us together to end and not tolerate racial inequality. And so this would be something to continually do every year to keep that window open and work towards the same thing in human rights that Gay Pride has done for gay people. So they're pretty big ideas, but it's, it's being a projector and the 14. And I realized that I've always done stuff on my own. I need other people.
Mhm.
So
Waiting for that kind of invitation. I mean,
right.
it's in your energy, and I mean, with your nodes being what they are, it really makes sense why you have a heart for this as well. And in being surrounded by extremes of victimization and inequality, with your mom and with yourself, it's like you just keep seeing that in the world, because it's all about loving yourself and loving the other. But if you're seeing like the struggle and the provocation and the things that society and humanity are dealing with, and what you're dealing with on a personal level as well, it would make you want to rise up and to help. But again, that's also moving into the fixer transpersonal role as well. And to really make the biggest impact, it's about coming into that self-love and transforming whatever that fire is that keeps burning you. So when you can transform the fire and know how to wield that fire, that's what's going to become wildfire for the causes that you have. So we like the real thing is about going into the Venus and being able to use the water of the two to kind of put out the fire for now, and then you're going to return and you're going to stoke your own fire by lighting it yourself, instead of it being lit by your mom and your dad, because your mom and your dad have kind of lit that fire for you now, and it's either that you're transforming the fire, or the two is coming in to kind of like put it out, so that it can be pure and yours versus diluted a little bit.
Ashley, would you mind checking the Chiron while I go back and kind of speak a little bit about reclaiming through the Venus?
Sure, I'll keep it on the gene key, and I'll go check on the Chiron.
So the way that we would say that you start to reclaim is that you are somebody who kind of like, you're a smart person, and you could kind of make sense of the things that happen to you with your mind, and kind of like deny the deeper sense of like how it came to you with your childhood and all that. So there is something where we really want you to come back to that emotional place. And like we said before, it's going to take some time for your liberation. You're 39, your liberation is in your north node. You have a 6th line in your vocation, so that's after 50. So there is something where already before you came here in that core wound vocation, your soul had decided that it's going to take kind of a lifetime to go through enough to be discerning enough to be able to step in. And it looks like you are stepping into what Ashley was saying, like you need a balance between water and fire. So I would say, being a projector and having the 3955, if you are a little bit of a volatile person and you want to actually use the water to soothe you. And I don't know if open relationships is the best thing for you with all these IQ a 0.2, EQ a 0.2, SQ a 0.2. I would say that the true mirroring and merging is super important for you. And you want to, whether it's an open relationship or not, when it comes to your emotions, you want to be able to really be heard, and you want to be able to really hear the other. The way that IQ is reclaimed and doesn't go into spins. Your mom was not heard by your dad. She wasn't maybe loved by your dad. What would she go into? Shopping, drinking, like saying, I don't want to be here anymore. Like the things that she went into was that she didn't have that true mirroring. So that's an imprint that you have, and that was strong in you, like around the age of 8, 9. So you want to go back and maybe purify some of that. But whenever you're in a relationship now, you don't just want it to be like a fuck buddy or something. Like you want to be able to have that. Like, I listen to you now, and then like I want us to be able to mirror each other. That's super important. So that, because if you don't reclaim your IQ or emotional, like your mind and your body are never going to be on the same page, and your spirituality and your soul is never going to be able to come in. So I see the EQ as so important. That's your pearl as well. It's the same activation. That would become your whole life. You not being mirrored and running around in destructive patterns of losing everything you have over and over and over again, and be disappointed in life, and finally ending up as your dad, as a bitter man that doesn't care about anything. We don't want, like, you are in exactly the perfect moment now, because you are in that third part of your life where everything is supposed to lock up. The freedom from the 55, the liberation from the 39, the lightness from the 30. But all that comes from the true mirroring in relationship. SQ, EQ, IQ. It's about true mirroring. And you don't, with your inner child, you want to promise it that you're always going to care for its boundaries and its freedom. That's the 21.2. It's about freedom, wildness, boundaries. So that's the way that your inner child is going to kind of energetically not be safe. And even if you don't say anything about your child or anything in relationship, it's going to, that SQ, it's going to create those things for you where you really need to be your own parent and say, okay, little Tom, I'm here with you. Nobody was there when you were 0 to 7 years old, but I'm going to make sure that you are not controlled by anybody. You're in your freedom. I'm going to see that our boundaries are healthy. Because you don't want to, like, boundaries are important when you have all the second line and when you're a fifth line and you have a fifth line sexuality. Boundaries are super important because you could use entrapment or fall into entrapment in cycles of sexuality that are detrimental for you. So you want to make sure that that inner child doesn't feel like you're burning it by those possible patterns that could be really complex, because the 23 in your sexuality is complexity. So you could really make it complex, and that inner child could feel like it's never going to be safe. So I would say the most important thing is go back to little Tom, say, I'm going to make sure that that we are in our authority together. I'm going to make sure that there are boundaries so that you feel safe and you feel free. And from that place, we can start to live together. And then you can start, and every time there's a relationship, if there's not true mirroring, it's not for me. If there's no respect, it's not for me. Then you are honoring your fifth lines and your second lines, which is everywhere in your profile. Then you're going to be able to ground into your first line in the 55 and the 59. You're going to be able to ground in deeply into your true intimacy, true honesty, true transparency, true freedom. But if you don't make all these second lines and fifth lines fire right, they're going to fire you out. And then you're never going to experience true intimacy and transparency, and less be grounded in that. That's your purpose. That's what you are grounded in. That's what you're supposed to stem from.
Yeah, and I've just been beginning a new relationship that's very different path. It's a 2-4 projector who's much closer to my age than any of my other relationships, and he wants to go very slowly. We've been dating for a month and haven't been intimate yet.
Wow.
Which is a very different pattern. So it's very slow building the friendship and the foundation before it's going further, which is perfect.
I love that he has that fourth line that you have only one of in the culture, and that's the heart that kind of can calm things down a little bit. And it's beautiful because your fifth line sexuality can play with all the strings of the guitar, because the fifth line, so it can play with just the wholesomeness of like feeling it's cooler to be together than not to be together. It can be the passionate merging. It can be the playfulness, kind of almost promiscuity, kind of in like the playing with that. And it can be the romance in the fourth line. And his fourth line is his soul. So like when you're grounded into your intimacy, into that transparency, he's grounded into the fourth line of really the heart. So there is something super beautiful in the 2-4 and the 5-1. They are harmonic, because the 2 and the 5 fifth line are harmonic, and the 1 and the fourth line are harmonic. So maybe there is a way of kind of starting one string at the guitar and then having the whole like all the song kind of, or all the colors of the rainbow.
I agree.
Yeah, I like what Bella is saying, and it also supports the 23 that you have in your attraction, because it's simplicity. And what you would do is like, let's focus on this and like have this together. Then now let's focus on this and add this, and it's like you keep layering things on top. So it's really cool to be able to go slow. And I feel with all the second lines too, I mean, the second chakra is the sacral chakra, and that's all about sexuality. So a lot of what you're redefining for yourself and figuring out is like coming into your true sexuality and the authority of your own sexuality. Because if the 21.2 is in your heart, then that's going to be really important for you as well. So, and that's where all the, I mean, that's, I think we have the root that brings the fuel to the sacral. That's all about creativity. But then when it gets to the solar plexus is where the fire happens. But you kind of need to allow yourself to receive the fuel, right? Because if your sacral is your engine, and you're not receiving the fuel, then nothing is going to be able to get the car to go, because there's no fuel in the car. So I think what you're doing is like moving up through the chakras as well, and then eventually getting to a point where you can voice your truth and then voice your vision, like from that place of like, this is mine, and I'm not trying to like replay my mom or live a life that my mom didn't have, or feel like you need to save everyone that is a victim because of what you saw in your childhood. It would be super strong for you to fall into that pattern of, I need to save all the victims, because I've seen that, I've been that, and I have that compassion and empathy for people who are going through that. But then we never save ourselves, and you're like always sacrificing yourself going into the fire to save people who are the ones that are actually starting the fires, and they never learn how to not start the fires. They're like, oh, let's just start this, Tom's gonna put it out, don't worry, his dad was a firefighter, he knows how to put out fires.
I mean, I would say really, if there was one practice or one thing that I think would help to remind yourself of every day as you step into this new relationship, as you step in, we haven't even spoken about kind of what you want to do in the world, but there is something that's going to be core, and that's the very, very center of your chart. And that's your SQ. It's the very, very center of your chart. And it's a second line. And now you're in a relationship with somebody who has a second line as their life's work and their evolution. So I kind of feel like this is kind of for him too, you know? So, well, really, I've said it before, but I just want to make it super, super clear. Like, you want to be very clear with what your boundaries is. Not only like, oh, don't come in. Like, boundaries is not a wall. Boundaries is a membrane. And it's like, you know, the membrane lets in and leaves out. It takes in nutrients and it leaves out like what it doesn't need anymore. So boundaries, there's like a redefinition of boundaries. You told us before about some of the experiences you had as a child when you were like molested, like, you know, where your boundaries weren't respected. So for you, it's really to understand this beautiful thing with boundaries. Like, a boundary can be as much as, like, I do this because I work with intimacy and sexuality too. A boundary, like when you kind of, before having an intimate exchange with somebody, you can have like kind of going into bubble with a person and say, what is your what's your desire? What's your boundaries? What's your fears? And boundaries can be something that's like, okay, I'll be ready for you if you let me take a shower before, or if you let me do an enema before. Like, it can be stupid things like that, but that means like, I don't want you to penetrate my membrane before I'm clean, for example. Like, it can be like, we think boundaries is like something that is leaving the other person out. No, it's caring about myself so that I can receive, so that I can merge. So that's something where I feel like that's an area of discovery for you. What is boundaries? Because that's gonna put you in that authority that your mom didn't have, and that consequently as a kid you didn't have either. And then the other thing for both you and your partner, because that's a second line life's work and your second line SQ, is about fulfillment. And it's about fulfilling yourself first. So you come to the relationship fulfilled, and then you're going to not fall into that, oh, he needs me, he's just with me because he needs me. No, he's going to be fulfilled in himself first. You're going to make sure that you're fulfilled in your freedom, in your boundaries, in your whatever it is. And then when you come together, 1 + 1 becomes more than 2. So that's something important. Whenever you feel the neediness, like, this is what I need from you, this is what I need from you, go back to your own fulfillment and be like, what can you do to fulfill yourself? So when you come back, you're whole. That's the two things where I feel like those are the kind of, these are the things to remember on the path that can heal that child that feels like it's not allowed its boundaries, it's not allowed its authority, it doesn't know how to fulfill itself, like your mom didn't know how to fulfill herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, Bella. Boundaries are super important for the second line. And I feel like we talk about mirroring, but nobody knows exactly like, how do you mirror? And before you can even discuss like where you want the relationship to go or what you want like things to happen, it's like, these are my non-negotiables, or these are the things that are mine. Like, because as a 5-1-2, Tom, it's about coming into self-empowerment, right? You're going to have your solitude to be one and to claim the creator in you, and then be like, okay, I'm ready for merging, I'm ready for another. But it comes from that place of wholeness and not, I need you to fill me. I need you to fill a hole. And that's where the addictive tendencies and patterns can come in as well. And that you've seen in your mom is there's a hunger and there's a need and there's a hole to fill. And when we come into empowerment as 5-1s, it's that we're whole healed in ourselves, and that whenever we go into a relationship, it's that it adds to. So you always have to, before you enter a relationship, you have to be like, okay, what's my soil like? Do I need to give myself more of this or that before I even want to come into like this gardening planting party with another person? I need to see where I'm at with my soil, because it's not that the other person is going to complete me or fill a hole. It's that it's going to add more nourishment to the soil that you already have, that you already feel very happy with. It's like, oh, this person's bringing more flowers, this person's bringing this and that. I'm really happy with the garden that I have now. I don't feel like it's dry and barren and I need someone to save it. I know how to save my own garden, and so I will. And then now this person comes in and we're able to garden together, and then it's a co-creation and you're bringing stuff to the table together. But we have to come into the self-empowerment first, and that's why it's so crucial to be alone and have your solitude, because that's what's going to anchor and ground you into yourself. Otherwise you fall into like the victimization of like, what don't I have? What do I want? And the 30.6, that's your core wound, and that's your wounded masculine. Your masculine saying, I don't have this. I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. And then it's victim, victim, victim. Who's going to give it to me? Oh, this person's going to give it to me. Or it's like, I need to save this person because they're not whole. They're not healed. I know that I can fill a hole in them, and I'm just going to be that person for them, because I know I don't want anyone to feel like they're not being met or served or mirrored or whatever. So, and it's not even true mirroring. It's just, I'm going to fill this hole so you feel good. But then as soon as you leave and exit, they're not good. So then you fall into the pattern of they need me, I need to stay. And you might stay longer in a relationship because you know that they need you. And then they keep burning you.
I've spent the last 4 years living by myself, which is the first time in my life doing that. And it's been for that purpose, Gene Key's human design, self-awareness, self-love, self-nurturing, caring for yourself.
I love that. It's kind of like a reset. Oh, here's the reset. And you have a long enough amount of time to really come into your own and come into your empowerment. And so, like you said, you've attracted a completely different person.
Yeah, very, very different.
What are the challenges that you're having right now in this relationship? Because it's so different, what kind of challenges are you facing with this because it's so new?
I'm used to like just jumping in and going, okay, let's do this. And we're not doing that. It's not sexual.
Yeah.
He does a lot of work, and I don't have to do anything. Survival is kind of covered. So I have a lot of time, and he doesn't.
Mm. And you guys have had conversations about like what you want or what you need, and he said what he needs, and you're just honoring the boundaries he has, right?
Yeah, we both have.
Yeah, which is good, because to have mirroring, it's like you can't control him. He has his own boundaries, and that's where the frustration can come in as well, because you have the desires, and the whole part of the vocation sphere that you see, your core, is about having the desires but not holding on to them so tightly that it becomes super uncomfortable, because the 21 can really manipulate the 30 as well, because it wants to control. And so if you can think about it as like you're in a relationship and you have this like blue Play-Doh and you guys are creating together, but you have a desire, and then you start holding onto the Play-Doh really tight, it's just like you can't form it at all. It just like smushes between your fingers because you're wanting to control it so much, and it can't even evolve and form into what it needs to. And it's about having that patience to let it develop when it needs to, because everybody has their own timing. But I know that you know this. It's just obviously it's a frustration and emotional upheaval that could happen when you're waiting for something you're so used to being satiated with from the get-go, because that 24 as well is going to want that instant gratification, like the kids that are addicted to video games, because it's like reward, and it's like, where's the reward? So now you're going to be searching for different rewards that you're not used to, because you have a lot of second lines. So it is very like, I just want to merge. I just want to have that, like turning that anger into passion, turning that like primal, like let's just get together and we need to merge. Now there's going to be a different way to look at what's the reward. What are these rewards? So it's a perception perspective shift to look at the different things, right?
Exactly.
And it's part of that fifth line sexuality. You're here to have so many strings on the guitar, so many colors of the rainbow. Like that's you are a rainbow. And also with the elements, there's water, there's fire. And you don't want to drown, and you don't want to burn yourself. But you're here to play with a lot of different elements. That's a diversity that is like, it's part of your makeup and what you're here, what you stand for a lot in the world too.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that.
Bella, you asked about his Chiron, and it's 22.2 and in the conscious, and it's 63.
I was feeling it was the second line, because you are here to heal that mirroring. It's like Chiron is just giving us now, it's just giving us kind of the confirmation of everything. It says you start with dishonoring, like with dishonor, the 22 in the low, there's not going to be any true mirroring. And your hero's journey on this earth is going to be to come up to that true mirroring, to like healing also the sacral, the sexuality, the part of it that wasn't conscious, that was denying something, and merging with that through that denial, and then going up to more graceful way of living. You don't have to lose all your belongings the fourth time. That's not part of the journey. So it's like, I love how just one part can confirm the whole hero's journey that we just looked at for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other any questions or desires or longings to have us go into our answer?
I would say I'm pretty good with all of this has added a lot in understanding of the Venus, because there was a lot there that I did not know. I think that my biggest struggle is the 14.5, wealth in great measure, and competence. It's like, still haven't quite figured that out. Someone gave me the idea that it's also called the leaky card, and the leaks are fear, self-doubt, those things. And I'm patching those holes, and it is building momentum. But if you have any other insight around that, would be
so to understand you, are you feeling like you're not truly embodying your competence? Is that the problem, that you don't know what your competence is, or what is it?
I have the visions, I have the knowledge and skills. It's the attracting those that I need to accomplish those things, if that makes sense.
Well, the 14 is here to empower the 2, which is the feminine, is the way shower, and so you're here to kind of have the resources to be able to give to the feminine, and the feminine is all about receiving, and this is a tantric channel too, so someone's also going to be coming in to show you what the true feminine is like, what the true mirroring is like, and also what doors do you go through, because you're a projector. And you're here to guide, but you also need to be guided. And so I feel like when you have all these options and opportunities, you're like, but I don't know which door to go through, because you have everything you need. Like that 14, when it's opened up, it is meant to be very resourceful, but you have to be in your own unique style and not under the projection of other people. What happens is we'll try to fill the roles of other people and to meet their needs, and then we're not actually fulfilling our true purpose and destiny, because we're meeting expectations, because I can fix you by being this person for you, but then that's compromising who you actually are by meeting the projections of other people want you to be.
I mean, there is something with you, like you are a jewel, and you weren't seen as a jewel when you were a child. You were like, you have that so strong in you because you're a projector, you have a second line pearl, and it says recognition if you look at that line. So it's not so much you kind of finding the right people. It's more like the right people finding you. You're going to know, like now in this relationship with this person, you know that he cares about you. He sees you again, and it's not about sex. Like that's the kind of relationship that you want to attract. People that see that you're a jewel, that you are not just a cold thing on the floor. And that's the people you want in your life. You don't want people. You don't want to have to lobby, or how you say it. You don't want to have to convince people about anything. But when you are seen, I would say I don't really like competence for the 14. I think it's much more the raw energy of the sacral center, and you are open in your sacral center. So when you are not using your energy right, or you are in these loops that are not serving you, your sacral is going to be kind of volatile. I feel like the more you work, the more you understand your Venus sequence, and you come into reclaiming all the parts of yourself, I think that very naturally people are going to recognize your competence, and your competence is probably not what you think it is. That's kind of how I see it.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense. I do get that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just one other quick question. I have an open spleen and no gates. Anything about that?
Well, remember how Bella was talking about your 30.2 and your masculine needing to come into his fearlessness? Well, with the completely open spleen, it is about being fearless. And it's not about being like really flippant with like, I'm going to take a risk here and a risk here. It's not a super like the risk taker that just jumps into anything or like burns everything. It's the fearlessness that knows that freedom is here, like I can go do this. I'm not scared to do this. I'm going to jump into this. I mean, what would you say, Bella, with the completely open spleen? I just wanted to link it to the
I love what you said. It can be a curse or a blessing. In the beginning of your life, you can take stupid risks because it's kind of, you don't have some of those filter that people have. As a 5-1 with a lot of second lines, you're going to project things on you, and you're going to be in risky situations often. But the thing is, you have no gates there. So your soul already worked through this another lifetime. So you can actually help people to get out of the fears that we are kind of, that is the fears that we are stuck in as humanity. It's something that I feel like your competence is really, really tied to. Your competence is to help people to not have those kind of illogical fears, but to trust the body. So it can even be like, trust the body. What kind of sexuality is yours? Can you trust your body, or do you have to go up and be fear and what's society going to say? And like, there's something here where you go beyond the fears of the mind and come back to the knowing of the body. The splenic center is all about how does it feel, how does it smell, how does it, that's what I see you embodying and being true in. And then you kind of become a role model for that, because that's your truth. And that's the 5th line. That's your competence. You know the truth, and it's your truth. It might look different than other people's truth, but by being so anchored in your truth, you can actually have other people becoming anchored in their truth by listening to their splenic center.
I lost my sound. I was getting a phone call.
Oh darn. Well, there shall be a replay. I wanted to link the centers too as we move our way up here, because I feel like with the 14 being in an open sacral, I wanted to mention this, that the root is a pressure center. And like I said, it's the fuel that fills your car, but your car doesn't actually have an engine. The only time it has an engine is when it's connected to somebody else, maybe when you're merging. That's why and you're a projector, so you're very sensitive sexually as well, because it's completely open. So you're going to feel a lot there. But what you're feeling there is like this empowerment, knowing like your competence and what to give and who to give it to, and then the nourishing, the nurturing, and the sexuality. So it's really a lot about when you have those desires, and when you know what you're wanting to like fight for, and you know that there's this fire burning inside you, and you just want to give it to the other, you just want to merge, you just want to have that partnership, you just want to have that union. That's what you're here to uncover in life, because of all your second lines is like, what's true partnership? And you have a lot of pressure in your root that says, I just want to go there. I just want to get into the center right here, because that's what's going to give you more of that life force to do the things that you want to do and to have the partnerships you want. And so you're going to need to be fearless as well as in your waiting, and being that mountain and being that stillness amidst the fire that you're going to feel it with your inner warrior, and that you're going to feel with this fire of the 39 as well, because the 39 is going to feel like okay, the fire's getting turned up. The fire's getting turned up. I'm getting a little bit provoked. And you're needing to turn that anger into passion. So that second line is all about that anger. So you're going to need to work with your root and feel that anger and turn it into passion. And once you do completely merge and come into union and I'm not just talking sexually, being in a partnership with somebody, that's completely unleashed onto them. But you also need to know that there has to be reciprocity where, it's not just a boom, I get to release it. Oh my God, all that pressure built up and now it's released. It's like it's released so that they can release. And then it comes back to you. So it's like this like biofeedback loop. But I think that it just builds from the desire in you because it's fueled by the emotions and the desire and the victimization and all that. And it's like, okay, I'm fueling this and then I need to release it. It's not a release and then it's done. It's a release and then you wait, open to receive. You've got to be filled up again, right? That's kind of what I wanted to say about that as I was looking at this pattern.
Yeah, and I mean, I would watch this again and look at kind of so that you get the matrix and see it in your chart, because that's really when it starts to kind of, what I feel, pull the DNA. Like it starts to activate, clear, integrate. And I mean, I also feel like with that splenic center so open, I think that there are things that you can do to kind of to allow whatever is stuck in your physical body, like, I don't know, shaking, screaming, I don't even know. I feel like there might be things that want to kind of, you're a projector. There might be things that are in your sacral, in your spleen or somewhere that you want to get out. So I don't even know what you would do. Go out in the forest, do a vision quest. I feel like there is something also in the cells that is ready to let go, like letting go of your mom, letting go of your dad, letting go of their destinies, and just be you from that very true kind of animalistic, instinctive knowing of what's right for your body.
Mm-hmm. How does that resonate? How are we at with everything, Tom?
I can barely hear, so I'm going to catch the last part of it on the replay.
Sometimes when I call, yeah.
It feels like we got quite a bit in there.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us and being open to us just diving into all these different parts of your chart. And I appreciate your transparency and sharing some of the stuff from your childhood and also where you're at now. So thank you so much, Tom.
Well, you're very welcome. And thank both of you. That was quite wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm sure I will go over it several times.
We hope that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, everybody that was watching and commenting. We appreciate your involvement as well. And if you're interested in doing a live reading with me and Bella, you can reach out to Unlock Your Design or to any of us personally, and we'll get you set up with that. Yet again, thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Thursday. And